This video is created by Nihar Dash from YouTube. This video is created by Nihar Dash from YouTube.
Top 10 disappeared aircraft in the world, written by Nihar Dash for public domain purpose only. A new radar satellite system that will provide rescue services with pinpoint locations of aircraft anywhere in the world in the event of a crash or other incident was unveiled in Company Clare on Tuesday. It is hoped the system, which will be operated by the Irish Aviation Authority, will enter the phenomenon of aircraft vanishing from radar, which can hamper rescue and recovery efforts. Here are 10 examples of aircraft that have disappeared. 1. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 carrying 239 people is one of the world's greatest aviation mysteries. The aircraft vanished en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing on March 8, 2014. Rescuers spent months scouring the seabed and the southern Indian Ocean, but efforts were eventually stood down. 2. Air France Flight 447. 10 years ago, Air France Flight 447 from Rio de Janeiro to Paris crashed into the Atlantic, with loss of all 216 passengers and 12 crew. The tragedy was keenly felt in Ireland, as it claimed the lives of 3 Irish doctors, Jane Deasy from Africa, Company Dublin, Eiling Butler from Austria, Company Tipperary, and Ith Walls from Billigan, Company Down. The cause was a mystery until the black box flight data and voice recorders recovered from the bottom of the ocean showed the aircraft's speed recorders had frozen during a storm. The search cost €31 million and took almost 2 years. 3. Amelia Earhart. On July 2, 1937, Amelia Earhart and navigator Fred Noonan took off from Lae, New Guinea, in a Lockheed Electra 10E, on one of the last legs of their round-the-world flight. However, the Lockheed Electra disappeared over the Pacific, and the groundbreaking aviator was never heard from again. 4. Flight 19 Torpedo bombers. At the height of World War II, the United States Navy dispatched 5 torpedo bombers on a routine training flight over the Bermuda Triangle. All 14 crew members aboard the 5 military aircraft were never seen or heard from again. Hours later, the Navy sent an additional 13 men on a search and rescue mission in a marine flying boat. They too were never seen or heard from again. 5. Flying Tiger Flight 739. In 1962, during the preliminary stages of the Vietnam War, United States Army Flying Tiger Flight 739 vanished over the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean, on its way to the Philippines. From Guam. No distress calls were received. Despite an exhaustive search party comprising 1,300 people, 48 aircraft, and 8 surface vessels, all of which covered roughly 144,000 square miles, nothing was ever found. 6. Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571. A Uruguayan Air Force plane carrying 40 passengers, including members of the Uruguay rugby team, as well as 5 crew members, disappeared while crossing the Andes on October 13, 1972. 72 days later, after everyone on board was presumed dead, 16 survivors emerged. The story of how starvation drove them to eat the flesh of some of the dead passengers was made into the 1993 film Alive. 7. Stardust crash. In 1947, British South American Airways plane Stardust, flying from Buenos Aires to Santiago, went missing on August 2, 1947. It was more than 50 years later, in the late 1990s, when pieces of wreckage began to emerge in the Andes Mountains. In 2000, various body parts from the flight's passengers were found, well preserved by glacial ice. 8. Indian Air Force plane crash. An Antonov An-32 twin-engine turboprop transport aircraft of the Indian Air Force disappeared with 29 people on board while flying over the Bay of Bengal in July 2016. The aircraft was en route from the Tambaram Air Force Station to Port Blair. The search and rescue operation became India's largest search operation for a missing plane on the sea in history, involving submarines, surface vessels and aircraft. The mission was called off in September with no trace recovered. 9. Lady B Gouda. U.S. Army Air Corps B-24D, named Lady B Gouda, was part of a bombing raid on Italy on April 4, 1943. It was the only plane of the mission that did not return to its base in Libya. Officials assumed the plane went down in the Mediterranean Sea. An extensive search was carried out, but no sign of the plane or crew was found. In 1958, an oil survey exploration crew was taking aerial photographs and spotted the plane in the Libyan desert. The plane had crashed, but was preserved well in the arid conditions. In 1960, the remains of 8 of the crew were found at various places in the desert. Among the items found with the bodies was a diary of co-pilot Robert Toner that revealed how the 9 bailed out before the crash, with 8 surviving. The survivors walked 85 miles before 5 gave up, and 3 continued to walk until they died. The remains of gunner Vernon L. Moore were never found. It is one of the oldest aviation mysteries. 10. Vancouver Douglas DC-4. The Douglas DC-4 departed from Vancouver in 1951 and was due to stop at Anchorage Airport, Alaska. The weather worsened with a visibility of just 500 feet. An emergency warning was issued when it was too late to report. No trace of the craft and occupant has been found.